We want to turn the page here to something that sadly has a lot of echoes of the politics here in the United States. That's the politics of Brazil. And of course, we recently saw there the supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro storming the capital, Brasilia, a number of key offices there. Very, very happy to be joined as we continue the show, joined once again by the attorney, Ana Júlia Guedes, who's also a militant with Levante Popular da Juventude. Ana, thank you so much for being back with us.
Thank you very much for calling me. It's always an honor and an excitement to be here to talk a little bit and bring this popular perspective to, other countries, to what's going on here.
Well, we are always happy to have you. Sorry that yet again we have to have it on somewhat of a negative note, but hopefully this will be the last time it's negative. Positive next time. But I will say, just to start, it is an interesting fact. I mean, we did see, of course, the storming of the Congress, the Supreme Court, other buildings by the supporters of Bolsonaro. But then we've also seen this big reaction and backlash of people who are for democracy. So does this feel like, as negative as it is, there's an element of hope in it to see how many people were standing up for democracy?
Yes, you got an exact point I wanted to shout out to highlight. That is that what happened Sunday was exactly a coup attempt. First clumsy and as unarticulated and as ugly as it looked, it was a coup attempt. It has sponsors, it had armed forces, it had police officers present, but in the end, what actually made it caused a reaction, and if we did not have such a experienced and committed chief of state, so much political ability to articulate with all the chief of powers, but also the foundation that we built during the elections that got all the different sectors of population of Brazil's people alongside with this project of hope of democracy, we would not see this backlash. I'm sure that even maybe other left-wing president would have more difficulty to make what Lula made on Sunday itself and on Monday again, gathering around the 27 governors, even those that were our right-wing and our Bolsonaro supporters. They also were there in the meeting, and especially when the streets echoed this idea, this project of hope, of democracy, of the popular demand, all that gave another message to these right wings that we're going to hunt you, we're going to find you because we're strong. We got out of this election stronger than we got in, and we won, and we're not going to let you take it with these coup attempts that destroy the public patrimony, that destroy the public buildings, that try to attempt against democracy and filming it and posting on social media as if they were like in a rally and some sort of carnival. Oh, it's so much fun to destroy these historical paintings, these 100-year-old paintings and sculptures, because it all belongs to now the Workers' Party. So it was a coup attempt. It was terribly serious what happened. But our ability to call out a manifestation on the next day, imagine it, in big part of the country is raining for like several weeks, and yet we were present, we were on the streets, and we put out our voices to say that. So although it is a terrible moment to be here again and bringing terrible news, but I also bring these news of joy, this news of having a chief of state that knows how to articulate the powers, but also the public support. So it's been in some kind revigorating because at last we won something. We went out of the streets, we shouted out, and we won it. So it's something. We're going there.
You know, it was interesting to see how quickly so many, I don't know if you were paying attention to this. Obviously, you were more likely paying attention to events inside Brazil, but it was interesting to see so many U.S. officials very quickly expressing opposition to these fascistic riots, basically. Which, you know, if you look at what happens in other Latin American countries, it's quite the opposite usually, right? Like these people will be called pro-democracy protesters, and they'll quickly label the left-leaning leader as being authoritarian. But in this case, it was quite the opposite. How important was that? How significant was the response from the US and other countries like it in very vocally and publicly expressing their disgust with these protests?
Yes, that was extremely important, and it is also a product of this articulation that got Lula there. Because when Lula took power and got there to in Brasilia on January 1st, there were more than 120 world leaders, chief of states, and prime ministers, all sorts of chiefs from all over the country, and that showed how Brazil got back on the international community, not only but democratic community. So the quick response we got from many of progressists and democrats, not Democrats, but democrats, Congress people from United States, that also showed the capacity, the ability that to articulate so many different sectors, and it gives us also a much comfort because you see that this kind of clumsy attempt of this kind of clumsy coup attempt and this kind of ugly and destructive thing, it happens a lot. And sometimes the international community, especially the central countries of capitalism, recognize these attempts. So, like it happened in Bolivia. After all, Janine Gomez was found under a mattress when she was arrested, as to see how ugly it was when she took the power. But when we had these responses, it also showed that there is no smaller partner in the international struggle for international people's struggle. You see, although United States also always shows up as an enemy, but there is a very big importance when these Congress people and these officials go out there and say we do not recognize, we do not approve. That makes a big difference here because in the end, it is a big commercial partner. In the end, our media cannot say something that it was like, oh, it was a little thing, it was a light thing, because, you have many Congress people from other countries and from the U.S. saying that they do not approve, but they do not approve. So it's not something, it's not like a communist conspiracy theory that they tried to make a coup state. No, there are many people from other countries and important people from these other countries saying that they tried something that is not approvable, that they will not pass by. So it was really, and we saw it at the moment because, we get desperate because, you're in a house Sunday night and suddenly Sunday morning, and suddenly there are people trying to invade the Congress and having responses from all over the country and many chiefs of state. It was extremely important to demonstrate that we were not alone and that we made that major victory that we worked for in last October.
I really appreciate that context. And, one of the things that feels so important to me is what these people were reacting against, because obviously it's very early, but I was hoping you could talk a little bit about some of the early indications from Lula's government. I know we've seen a very diverse cabinet focus on hunger, because I think, that in and of itself says so much about the nature of who this mob was when you look at what they seem to be so upset about in terms of Lula's agenda.
Yeah, there are two things. There are two major things that are happening right now in the government. One, it is this to constitute a cabinet with diversity, with indigenous, with black people, with experienced people from different areas and from broader, a little bit broad, too much broader than we wanted, but broad spectrum of politics, but also that gains support. Alongside with that, investigations against Bolsonaro's government are also taking place because right now we put down he had put like his vaccination card in 100 years secret, but also his corporate card from the presidency in a secret. So today it went out publicly. What was the expenses? So in that way, at the same time, there is a Lula agenda of struggle against hunger, to make it more democratic, to raise human rights as a main subject. we are also demonstrating that corruption, it is not something from the left wing. It is not Lula who's a corrupt. The corrupt one was Jair Bolsonaro, and he was terribly corrupt, and he hid all sorts of terrible things, and that now have, I believe that we're going to be able to make some links that the money that he literally stole, because I mean he spent like millions of dollars on his corporate presidency card. It's even stupid and unelegant to do that. Can you imagine? He spent in one only bakery during these 4 years. He spent like 100,000 reais. That is like $20,000 in one bakery. If he would need to spend like thousands of money in every day in this place. But these investigations are going outside. So the agenda of anti-corruption, that is to show that who is the corrupt, who is against the people's rights in Brazil, together with this of diversity, of union, of putting democracy as a human value, that is what they're struggling against. And they keep saying that we should, that the, what, how they communicate, it is a protest against reality, because they do not want to accept what reality is putting through. They do not want to accept that Bolsonaro stole money from vaccines and was vaccinated in 2021. So they don't want to accept the minimum, and they're going to protest and to create this parallel reality, because honestly, what we're going to find it is that not only our country is amazingly capable of making politics, but also that Bolsonaro was the biggest corrupt, and we're going to find the biggest corruption scandals of our history for sure in these, and we're going to find it in the armed forces, we're going to find it in the police forces, and we're going to find it in the ministries. So it's going to be a long journey to them, and they're going to. I suppose they're going to. They're not sleeping, and they're only under our thin water of reality. But they're going to keep protesting against this. That we're going to show through justice, through parliamentary commissions of investigations that are also going to start to take place soon as the Congress starts to work. So that's what they're rallying against. But the most important is that they're not rallying against it alone. They have these sponsors, and they have police by their side, and they also have forced arms by their side. So there is a very delicate and a very important challenge there, that is to overcome to this. It is mainly agriculture and mining and police, and for armed forces, so it's a very terrible combo in our history, especially in our history as a country. That's what we fought against on the dictatorship, and that's what we're going to face again. But now with the chief of state, now with the democracy, and then with the people that do recognize that democracy is not an eternal value, but something that you have to keep looking and struggling for, and you have to keep valuing it, and you have to know your history. So it's a big shake-up for all of us, because especially to this biggest part of the Brazilian people that are not exactly militants of organizations, but are now realizing that you have to do what you have to do in democracy. It is something to struggle, especially if you're in the global south.
No, I agree 100%, and I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how all this develops, and we're looking forward to keep checking in on it. Ana Júlia Guedes from the Popular Youth Uprising in Brazil. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time here on the Freedom Side.
Just to finish,
please.
To say that not only I'm here and I have something good, but I think the message we have for these next 4 years is Galeano's phrase that if they do not let us dream, we will not let them sleep. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to let them sleep, because we are chasing and we got our dreams back.
Right on, right on. Well, it's going to be exciting to see everything, and they won't be sleeping. I can believe that, having been there. I've seen the popular enthusiasm all across the country. So thanks again for being with us.
Thank you so much for calling.